Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the third in our series of The Future is Female founders talking about equality and entrepreneurship. We're running this series this month because obviously on the 8th of March, it was International Women's Day. And I thought it was such a great opportunity to speak to some amazing female founders, hear about their journey, find out how they got where they are, and understand how we can support more women in business. So I'm Jackie Patton, for those of you that don't know me. I'm the Managing Director of InBlock Creative, and we help growing businesses make their marketing make sense. And I'm also the founder of Greenhouse Jersey. So if you're a business that's looking to know more about marketing and sales, you want to be part of a growing community, then go and check us out as well. But enough from me. Let's hand over to Tamsin, who is the founder of Exordi, who's joining me today. Tamsin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, Jackie. My name's Tamsin. I'm the founder of Exordi, and I like to refer to myself as a storyteller. So whilst I'm not a photographer or filmmaker, I very much am a storyteller. And yeah, I've ventured on this new exciting journey as a founder, learning lots along the way. So it'd be nice to discuss a little bit about that journey today with you.
So let's start off. Why don't you tell us what is Exordi? Let's start there.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, Exordi is in short, a platform where it essentially matches brands and agencies and environmentally conscious brands to a global community of purpose-driven content creators and storytellers all around the world. And what that does is it really provides unmatched agility, competitive turnaround times, and access to the world's best content creators wherever they are in the world. This match essentially happens based on location, relevance, and passion, and of course budgets, because that's an important one for clients. But in a nutshell, Exordi allows you to simply source, engage, and manage multiple world-class creators under one platform.
That's amazing. So it's almost like a really fancy dating service where brands can get connected to the best content creators and storytellers. I love that.
Exactly, yeah.
And so that's obviously an amazing business that you're in the process of building at the minute. But how did you end up there? How did you end up starting this business?
That is a really, that's a good question. I think essentially, I always from a young age wanted to learn how to communicate to the masses and then do it for a good cause. And essentially, I always loved photography and writing, but I didn't feel like I excelled in one area, going through school and trying to navigate what you're really good at. And it wasn't clear to me at the time. So I always loved storytelling. I loved communication. I liked public speaking. So long story short, went traveling for a few years, wanted to immerse myself in different cultures, tell new stories. And I wanted to go back into academia as the first person in my family to ever do university. And I landed myself a place, a degree in Bournemouth, studying advertising. And I really did learn how to communicate to a lot of people, quickly fell into the Adland trap, if you like a lot of us do, before we go off on our own journeys. And I absolutely loved it. I'm not going to lie. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the buzz, the busy days, the kind of really long hours. And I really thought I was where I needed to be. But I always had this niggling feeling of unhappiness. And I always blamed it on my living circumstance or, what was happening in my personal life at the time. And actually, it took me quite a long time to realize that unhappiness feeling was actually my values weren't aligned with the day in, day out work that I was doing for international FMCG brands and, big brands that were the day-to-day was fun, but the actual message and campaign that I was working on supporting really wasn't aligned with my why and my values as a person. So don't get me wrong, it took me a few years to navigate that and figure it out. And when I eventually did, and I'll tell you how it did actually, I was coming home to Jersey. I never thought there was a career here for me in Jersey to start with. I always thought, London, and you've got to be in the big city to earn the big bucks and be the big person, which isn't true. And I was coming home due to a family illness, and I met Matt Porteous, who a lot of people know as the royal family photographer, incredible storyteller, but also just an awesome guy. And within literally minutes, I knew at that point that I was going to go back to Bournemouth, hand in my notice, and embark on this venture, which has been to date the best venture I've ever taken in my career. And I think when that is an example of following your gut, because every person around me would have told me at the time, that's a really stupid decision. Like, you're throwing away this stable job and you're doing well in your career. And I just literally threw it all in. I remember going home and being like to my partner at the time, we just moved into this beautiful house, because again, I thought I was unhappy because of this. And I said to him, I'm moving back to Jersey. I've handed in my notice. And he was like, you what? And then it happened, and it happened really quickly. And I went with that. And the journey then started, me and Matt working with purpose-driven brands that I wanted to work with, brands that I aligned with, and the work got better. We got bigger in terms of a business, and it just flew from there. But I managed his photography and film company, and I realized we were working a lot with Jersey business, but I wanted to work with these brands still that I'd had experience with, but brands that, again, I aligned with. So how could I get there? And I think, we started working really hard, manually building out creative communities. So a lot of people know about Ocean Culture Live, which is our incredible global network of ocean storytellers and ocean advocates. And we really wanted to find a way to support their work. And we started matching manually brands with these creators. And I thought to myself, and we thought to ourselves, right, we've got to find a way to be able to do this on a bigger scale, allow brands the opportunity to work with creators who are definitely a certain type of character and work a certain way. And I'd worked with creators long enough at that stage to know what their pain points were as well. So I wanted to build a platform that was built by them, for their needs, as well as the client needs. And that's where we are today with Exordi. And yeah, it's a really exciting time, daunting, but really exciting.
I love it. And it's really interesting to hear that journey, right? So starting in that space, thinking this doesn't fit, and then figuring out how can you still work with the skills you've got, but in a way that's going to make you happier and do better things, right, for more people.
Yeah, for sure.
When you say creators, what do you mean?
So at the moment, it's photographers and filmmakers. And yes, we do plan to expand into, creative directors, producers, and all the other wonderful people that make productions possible and stories possible. But for now, we are concentrating on filmmakers and photographers and content creators in this space. So, and purpose-driven ones as well.
I love it. So the whole purpose of us having these lives, this series of lives, was to kind of get a bit of an insight into the minds of female founders and what they're learning and where they're learning those things from. So I asked everybody that's been on so far, Michelle, who joined me in the first week, Vicky and Charlie, who joined me last week. I'm going to ask you now in May next week as well. What's your biggest piece of advice for founders? That was the question that I asked you when I asked you to join me on this live today. And you said to me, we've got to fall in love with the process of building a business, not just the potential of a business. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I quickly learned, I think we've a lot of people have heard this, but the term entrepreneurialism is totally over glamorized, right? Everyone thinks that I think they think I just sit and I've got my whole day to play with and I don't have to be a certain place at a certain time, and I get to finish when I want to, and if I want to go to the gym whenever I want, I can. However, the reality of it is the complete opposite. I do work 16-hour days. I have the ability to be somewhere at a certain point, but it is hard work. So you absolutely have to love the process. You have to, again, have that why. And I always refer to it as that kind of hierarchy of needs, right? Your values at the bottom, your fundamental core and structure of everything that you do has to be aligned with all the other things going on in your life. So when I'm having days where I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I've not even had anything to eat today.
We've all had days like that.
And you hate yourself for it, don't you? Because you're thinking, this isn't why I do this. But actually, in reality, it is. That is why you work those 16-hour days. That is why you do it, because you care about the what and the why and the purpose of you building this business. So it's fundamental that you fall in love with the process. Yes, you're going to have those days where you think, what am I doing? Should I just go and get a job? But actually that you've got to have the other part of it that swings you back round and brings you back. And that is that value that you sometimes are brought up with, and your values are very hard to change and shift. They do change and shift, but I always say to a lot of creators that I mentor as well is find your purpose, because that is what will bring you back wholeheartedly to why it is that you do every day what you do. So I think it's really important.
It's interesting, isn't it, what you're saying? I think when we see successful businesses, and I put that in air quotes because what does success mean? It's different for everyone. But when we see them, we often see them fully formed, right? We see the end product. And very often the stage, the limelight, the platform is given to people that can say, yeah, when I had this business and it did really well. So we're talking about things that have happened in the past tense, but we don't often hear from people as they're going through that journey to get there. So we kind of think of things as being an overnight success. We don't see the slog. We don't see the in your pajamas on your sofa crying into a bowl of cornflakes at 10 o'clock at night thinking, what am I doing with my life? That's me very often. We don't see the hard bits as much, or if we do, they're still glamorized because it's, you know, the hard bits where you can make a story out of it rather than just the day-to-day drudgery of how do I pay my tax? How does this thing work? I need to figure out that tax thing. How do I get an employee? All the boring stuff that we don't really talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. Like people don't see the late nights, and it's not like you know, another thing is I am an advocate for this life. The reason I do this every day is because I love it. I do love this crazy amazing journey, and honestly this is wholeheartedly the truth. The day I left the agency, I have never once clock watched. I have never looked at that clock and gone, when's it 5 o'clock or when's it 8 p.m. or whatever, because you absolutely have to enjoy that process, and it's not for everybody. It really isn't. Like, and I think however, if you are a hard worker and you believe wholeheartedly in, you're just one of those people that knows that, you know, you're dedicated and you are that person that stays at the office till the very last minute of every day, and you do believe in that cause and that, you know, why it is that you're doing it. I do think it's a certain spirit and it takes a certain person, but I really want to encourage more females to be looking into this lifestyle, because let's face it, a lot of the time we have lots of other caregiving roles to play in personal life, and it can be daunting to think, well, how am I going to look after a team and my family and everything else and keep my head on? So yeah, it's daunting but rewarding, so rewarding in other ways as well.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're sold this like hustle culture mentality of the hardest workers in the room do the best. But I'm not sure that I believe that. Like, I definitely don't work harder than a doctor in A&E. I definitely don't work harder than a mum at home with twins. But it's that mentality, isn't it, of staying focused. I think for me, it's about the focus and the continued focus for years before maybe people notice and want to get involved.
That's so, like something you said before about, you know, you often see the success, but what does success mean to you? Because for a lot of other people on this cohort, it means building a business and making lots of money. For me, it's getting up every day, loving what I do, being able to champion what it is that I do, and stories that actually go on to change people's behaviors and inspire people and businesses to be better. So yes, whilst I want to make money and be comfortable, it's not the absolutely fundamental reason why I do this every day. And it's totally fine to have those different reasons as to why, but I think just trying to figure that out and own it and be there with that, because I've had conversations in the past with people like, you work what for what? But that's not my why, that's not my purpose. So, and I'm fine with that.
I'm going to ask you more about purpose in a minute, but I'm just going to say thank you to Lilia, who's commented on our live. This is a reminder, anyone watching, this is where I go into my like TV presenter mode. Anybody watching, drop a comment. If you've got any questions for Tamsin, if you've got any questions for anything we're talking about today, do ask them. Open to any questions at all, throw them our way, and I will pick those up and ask them for Tamsin, so that you can get the answers. You mentioned one thing just before we start talking about purpose. You said on this cohort. So you are currently on the Digital Jersey Bootcamp, Startup Bootcamp. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because you are actually the only woman in the group, right?
I am, yeah. So I'm normally away this time of year. I'm not gonna lie. Normally I'm somewhere tropical working on a campaign somewhere not in Jersey. So the last
Are you wishing that's where you were with this weather?
that's probably watching from the Maldives now. Like, actually, I bet you wished you were here. But in truth, actually, I've really, really valued this time, being, purely focused on 100% on Exordi and its growth and where we're taking this. And I think me having this physical place. So we're in Digital Jersey. We have this amazing building we can come to every single day. And for me, that's massive value. It's me getting up, walking to work every day, having somewhere to go, having somewhere to bounce ideas off. And the idea is that it's a 12-week program. And you have access to accountants and lawyers. And, when you're on your startup journey and you're bootstrapping, a lot of the time you are navigating this space 100% on your own. Some other people here don't have co-founders. I'm lucky too. So it can be quite hard in your own head, with no one else to talk to. So a lot of the time it is just a place to voice your opinions, your ideas, flesh it out. There's 2 people that have completely pivoted their ideas.
Isn't that fascinating?
I know, I love that. And I actually really enjoy talking out other people's businesses ideas. It's nice. It's a nice break for me not to be thinking about, day in, day out Exordi. And also the opportunities to network here. Like, I've been back in Jersey for 5 years now running a business that's done well, but I've really focused on work off island, when actually this has really made me look inwards and think, what opportunities have we got here in Jersey? I want to be able to work more here, not necessarily business here. However, there's investors here, there's people to network with here, there's good people here. And I think, and there's potential staff, as the company grows, employees here. And I've really enjoyed that last 7 weeks of just, showing up and having somewhere to be and become.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think it's such a good thing for the island. If anybody's watching who's not based in Jersey, you'll be thinking, startup boot camps, they've been happening everywhere, forever. Yes, they have. You're not wrong. But this is our first one on island. So for businesses here who otherwise would have had to have relocated to get that kind of support, it's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, it's great. And they've got some fantastic speakers. For me, the Thursday thinking sessions, you did one too. They bring
You have to say that they were good.
They just, honestly, for me, they draw back the curtains. They're open, they're honest. They've been through it themselves. They've grown businesses. They've had failed businesses. And for us starting out on this journey, it's like, how can we get the most out of that? And they're completely truthful and honest. And that is more valuable. It's like, most of my learning comes from podcasts and real life experiences. That's how we learn a lot of the time.
And it's interesting. I came in and did a Thursday thinking session, and then I had a session with one of the founders in the bootcamp. After that, they just asked me to kind of give them some thoughts and some things. And I asked them, like, had they seen a theme in those sessions? Because I always think it's interesting, get lots of different founders in at different stages and say, tell us about your journey. And I was interested to know if it had been similar or different. And they were saying that a lot of very similar themes were coming out, which made me feel good because it meant I hadn't gone completely off the rails. But it also is interesting, isn't it, that all of us, as we're building businesses, we're all dealing with the same things, yet it can feel really lonely and you can feel like you're the only one.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's nice about this cohort, I think. I've got my co-founders that I speak to every single day, all day. But to have that,
like all day.
Yeah, it's really nice. And it's lovely that it's here in Jersey. And I want to see more of this, and I want to see more women in this. I want to see more than one next year, and I'm going to be cheering them along. And I think, I think it's great to be doing it here in Jersey. I love Jersey. It's a great base, big opportunities here. And I think maybe before this cohort, I wasn't quite aware, or at least I wasn't looking in that direction. So I want to do much more here.
I love it. So you mentioned purpose. We've talked about aligning kind of around your purpose and how important purpose is for you. And I know that there will be people that are watching this and they're thinking, yeah, I want to do that, but how do I figure out what my purpose is? How do I even figure that out? So maybe you could share a little bit about how that happened for you, if there's anyone listening or watching that's thinking, I need to get on this.
Yeah. So again, I think it is about leaning into your strengths. And again, people might go, but I've not got any. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. And a lot of the time it's about, imposter syndrome. Everybody has it. Everybody has self-doubt. I don't care what they say. But it's about trying to navigate that space and finding, there's multiple ways you can find your why and your purpose. And, you know, I've seen a lot of photographers in this space, at least, kind of go, I love photography, but I need to make money out of it now. So a lot of them actually fall into, very quickly, a way of making money through their photography. So they might go into wedding photography because that's actually quite an easy earner at times. And then all of a sudden, after 2 years of crazy back-to-back wedding photo shoots, they go to themselves, oh, I've fallen out of love with photography now, and I don't feel like my purpose is there anymore. So strip it right back from the very start. What did you pick up that camera to shoot? Did you go out? Did you shoot wildlife? Did you shoot people? Navigating that space and stripping it back and going right back to the beginning is often a good place to start. And it happens with all walks of life. You know, you might fall into finance because, again, you either wanted to make money fast, or you actually genuinely cared about this industry and you wanted to make a change. You know, you might go into ESG or whatever that is, but actually go right back to the very beginning and speak back to your younger self and think to yourself, what was that dream when I was younger? Or what did I enjoy? Or what do I enjoy still about this job? And dig a little bit deeper. And it doesn't come overnight. I'm not going to, you know, I find my purpose. You're still discovering your purpose every day. You know, it does change. But I think fundamentally, it comes back down to my values. And my values are essentially, is about, you know, being nice to people and getting it back. I fully believe in that law of attraction.
Don't be a dickhead. That should be the mantra of all businesses, guys. I know I'm swearing, I know it's LinkedIn, but you'll get over it if you follow any of my content.
And I really do believe in that law of attraction, and it's come back around in business so many times. You know, like when you give people the time, you know, there might not be a reason for you to do it at the start, but it always comes back around. And it does in business too. And Matt is a firm believer of that. And I champion that 100% wholeheartedly. But yeah, going back to the purpose, it's not always clear. It's not always easy to navigate. And it's certainly not easy to break the job that you might be in now. Because I'm not saying, oh, just go and chuck in and hand your notice in like I did. I had a vision and a real strong gut feeling about what I could do with this person in business, and all my skills still were leaning towards doing that. It wasn't like I decided to become an astronaut the next day. There was, you know, themes within it. But yeah, I did have to kind of put my big girl pants on then and think, you know, screw it. What have I got to lose? Because I'm just going to end up being unhappy eventually.
And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like with purpose, like it's yours. So whatever it is, it's the right thing. Like no one can tell you it's the wrong one. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I don't, you know, I've not got a big lofty purpose of changing the world, but I do want financial stability for my family, or actually I'd like to be able to just choose the hours where I work so I can spend more time with my family, or I want to make loads of money, or, you know, there's lots of different reasons that people get up and go to work every day. And as long as it's aligned for you, then it's valuable, right?
Totally, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And everybody, you know, has that purpose. They just need to dig a bit deeper. And you know, some people might not feel like they even need to do that, and that's totally fine too. But I think for me in business, that's what gets me out of bed every day. And it's funny, people always say to me, how do you find that work-life balance? And I actually don't believe in that work-life balance personally, because I wouldn't be working what I'm working if it wasn't the lifestyle that I actually wanted. And it's like, I heard this on a podcast and I really resonated with it. Someone said to me, you know, you don't go to work and forget about the person you love. Yeah, you don't like, oh, I've come to work and I don't think about my family today. I still think about them. I still love them. It's still part of what I do. And it's the same for me for work. And yes, I do take it home. And yes, sometimes I think about it late at night and I'm working late at night, but that is what I choose to do, and that is my lifestyle. So I think, you know, lifestyle business or whatever you want to call it, still building a business. And I think that I'm lucky enough to love what I do every day.
I think work-life balance is really interesting, isn't it? Because it's a concept that's born out of our way of working, which was born out of like factory work, right? The idea is that you clock in, you do your job, you clock out, you're on the clock, you got to do your work. But when you build a business, or actually anyone that's working in any business, but definitely for founders, I never turn my work off for life, and I never turn my life off for work, because it is all my life and I'm showing up every day doing all the things.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but when I started, the thing I struggled with wasn't work-life balance, it was boundaries. And it was boundaries around, hey, can I meet you at 2 o'clock on Friday for lunch? Because I know you're self-employed, so therefore you'll have time.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm now going to be working late because I need
Yeah.
to still do that. But then boundaries the other way, of not feeling bad when I'm like, I'm not working on a Saturday, I'm going to have a day off and hang out and not worry about it, because I'm not doing anything that's going to end the world if I don't turn up for 24 hours. I think for me, it's been about boundaries, not about balance.
Yeah, learning how to say no was the biggest and hardest thing for me, but gosh, I've got good at it. I've got really good at it. And, you know, people that know me in business and in personal life know that I don't say it out of malice, or I don't even say it lightly. I always want to overservice my clients, and I continue to do so. But saying no so that I can be the best version of myself and provide the best service for my clients is so fundamental, and it comes with time and practice.
It really does. And it's a hard thing, isn't it? Because it can be all consuming. And, you know, nobody, getting morbid now, but like on your deathbed, nobody ever goes, God, I wish I'd worked more hours.
Yeah.
It's about the relationships, isn't it? And the impact we leave. And as a founder, we get an amazing opportunity, but we also have to protect ourselves and look after ourselves as well. I've got a question for you that's come through in the comments. Charlie's asked, can Tamsin recommend a podcast for us?
Oh God, so many. I literally spend my life listening to podcasts every day. There's actually, if you type in, I found a lot from, even if you just type in Spotify female founding podcast, I've been like trawling my way through a lot of that. And it's because I'm personally we're raising money at the moment. And that is a whole new avenue for me, and navigating that space. And I've got most of my education through listening and reading. And I think, depending on what it is that you want to learn about, that there's so many out there. And I'll actually tell you what I'll do. I'll do a little blog overview after this, and I'll put some links in. But it does depend on, I suppose, what it is that you want to learn.
You recommended the CEO school to me.
That's good.
And I've been listening to that one. That was one I hadn't heard of. And she does a little wine sesh where once a week she has a glass of wine and chats, and I've really enjoyed those. So maybe that's definitely one to look at. And just as a little plug for the previous lives that we've done this month, Charlie and Vicky, who are the founders of Swappers, have just won their first round of investment, and they actually talked about that and about kind of the things they'd learned going through that process. So that might be worth a watch for anyone that's in a similar boat. Right, I've got a big long list of questions, and I'm just getting excited and chatting to you about everything, but I'm going to refocus. So we've talked a lot about the things we can do and the things we can do to make this journey of building a business an easier, more fulfilling one. What about the things we get wrong? What do you think the biggest thing that founders get wrong in your experience so far, both with supporting Matt to build the business there and then now starting Exordi?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing, for the last 5 years running the business, the studio over here, I think one thing that I tried to do wrong, I've learned the lesson, is I try to wear so many hats, right? I try to wear all of the hats, and you get busy being busy. And this time around, I'm working smarter, not harder. I'm funding my fears. So yeah, funding my fear. Someone said this to me a few months ago. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I need to do more of, and putting the money into, you know, data policies and the legal stuff and the accounting and early doors, funding those areas that it's fine if you don't know that. And if you can afford to pay somebody to do it, if you're starting to make revenue, then do that, because you need to lean into the areas where you're good at. And right now, this is building the business and employing the right team and making sure that that culture of the business is what you want it to be and what you want to emit and what you want to attract back. And that's where I need to spend my time as a founder and as a COO. I need to be in that seat. I don't need to be worrying about all the things that at this stage, essentially, I can hopefully pay somebody else to do, because I did it in the last business, and I'm certainly not going to do it in this one.
And it's interesting because I obviously talk to people that are growing businesses every day. That's my job. And it's a theme people that are doing well, that are growing, that are learning, are people that know what they're not good at and are
Yeah.
happy to be like, I know nothing about that, you do that bit. And,
Mm.
you know, I think about it when I started Inkblot, first thing I did was get an accountant. I was like, not my strong suit. I could spend 3 days a week figuring that out and it'd still be wrong. And I'd still get a horrific tax bill because I've screwed it up. So yeah, I think that's definitely a running theme in the conversations I've had with founders. So I think that's really interesting.
Micromanaging too, right? We all, especially because sometimes when it's your idea, it's your baby, you go, oh no, but I need it to be done this way, I need it to be done that way. And learning, like Matt's very good at this, like learning to let go. But then I've also got my other co-founder, Carlo, who me and him are very structured and very organized. And we've got a lovely blend of personalities, which brings me into my next point is having that co-founder, having that, you know, it doesn't even have to be a co-founder at this stage, just having that person and your circle. I call it your circle. And for me, it's not just the co-founders, it's my, you know, it's my mum, it's my sister for that emotional support and my partner, but it's also then people in business, mentors. And, you know, business mentor is probably the best thing that you can do early doors, early on, especially if you're on your own in this journey. And yeah, just surrounding yourself with that circle of people that lift you up when you're having a shit day and vice versa. I think that's so important. So important.
I could not agree with you more. At the very beginning of my journey, I hate that sounds so wanky, doesn't it? Journey, but you know what I mean. I started a business. I heard somebody speak in the US. I can't remember the name of the guy, Chris someone. And he said that there are certain people you need in your circle. You need cheerleaders. So people that no matter what you do, they're going to clap.
Yeah.
Right? These are the people that might not understand your business, but they're like your best mates, the people you've known forever who you could do something really rubbish and they'd still be like, go you, we love you. You need those people.
You do.
Right? Then you need mentor. So you need somebody that can say, I've been there, I've done it, and here's what I learned along the way. Somebody to learn from. Then you need a coach. So that's different to a mentor, right? Somebody who can teach you how to do some things, just like the same as you would get a coach to become a better tennis player, you can get a coach to become a better business leader. And I thought that was really interesting, that it's about learning from people that have done it, filling gaps in your own knowledge, and then having people that like that oomph and that support, so that you've always got those kind of 3 areas working really well.
Absolutely, 100%. And I've got all those things now. And I think essentially, like with the other business, I've taken so much, I've learned from that, and we're growing and expanding at a rate now that I can really see that roadmap. And yes, it changes, direction changes, and Exordi might be very different to what it is now in a year's time, but being willing to take constructive criticism as well, and always making sure that it's constructive, right? Because a lot of the time you can get really offended when someone says, oh, but this is really shit. Okay, well, why is it shit? Like, give me that constructive feedback and see how you can work with that, because it can sometimes feel like it's personal, depending on who it's coming from, especially even in like your business circle as your other co-founders. So as long as it's constructive, I can work with it. I can work with it and take it on board and implement it, or I can work with it and actually give you the reason as to why it is like that. And I think that's always something that I ask for with all people I work with, is just make sure that feedback has got, you know, legs to it. I got given a really good piece of advice from one of our talkers, Leo Harrison. And you're being at the startup of your journey is working 6 months, you know, in advance, essentially. And I think that works in 2 ways. You know, you're putting it out there that this is what you're building and this is where you're going to be in 6 months. And you put it out there, you admit that, and you with conviction. And, you know, within a few weeks, we had clients coming back to us saying, okay, can we do this and can we do that? And we were going, this is a really good position, but it's also daunting because obviously we've said we're here when actually we're nearly there. Just means you've got to work a little bit harder. But that also then gives you the validation that, you know, what you're doing is right and needed, and the product fit and the market fit is there. And I think that for me was a really good piece of advice, because sometimes you can linger in that, you know, startup phase where you think, I'm not quite there yet. And some people are perfectionists. I am a little bit. And I wanted the platform to be doing X, Y, and Z before I reached out to my clients. But actually the reality is you can make it work. And I think that was a good piece of advice for me. And I definitely echo his words.
And you have to get to know those customers to have those conversations. Otherwise, you're not going to get the feedback. So many people build a product or service, and then when they go to market, no one wants it.
Right.
Or they've built something that they think someone wants, but they've not actually checked. So having that, being slightly ahead of yourself, you're getting that feedback in real time, which is scary because you're like, oh, we've got to figure out how to make it work. But at least you know you're moving it in the direction that's going to impact the growth of the business, right?
Yeah, 100%, without a doubt. And you do, like, I spent most of my time over the last month on calls to our customers, and in my eyes, that's not just clients, it's all the creators, you know, it's the amazing individuals. And I personally like to get to know their journey and story so that I can make sure that the platform we're building and the clients we're working with are really aligned with that their vision and what they want from this. So yeah, a lot of time on back-to-back calls, getting to know people, but that's what I love to do. I love to learn about other people's journeys and cultures, and I get a lot personally from that. So it isn't that much of a slog, even though at the end sometimes I feel like the worst dry mouth and just feel like all I've done is talk at people. But I've really enjoyed that journey, and I'm just really excited to see, where we can take this, because we're already getting lots of interest, and I just love seeing matching creators with brands and jobs they care about and seeing what magic they create. Because on a scale that isn't just me and a small team, this is our global community of incredible storytellers, and what impact we can have with that is just
nuts,
limitless, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just going to do a little reminder. Any questions, any comments for Tamsin, pop them in the comments. So we've talked about what brought you to start Exordi. We've talked about the things that you think we should be thinking about to be successful. We've talked about the things that we get wrong. But obviously it's International Women's Day month. Like any good celebration, I'm dragging it out, right? It was my birthday at the weekend. I've had about 10 different birthday moments because I think, why not? Let's make the most of it. And it's the same with International Women's Day. So this year there was kind of two themes floating around, one around embracing equity and one around digital. So the idea of making digital and tech accessible for everybody. But I think thinking about that kind of equality, that equity as a woman in business, you've mentioned your co-founders are both men. You're obviously on a boot camp where you're the only woman. What do you think is the kind of the main thing that would make the business world, the startup world, more equal and more equitable for female founders?
So I think I like the word equity, because actually all it really means is to be fair. Let's face it, right? And I think business leaders must recognize the value of having women at the table, because not only does it make complete commercial sense, but I think that maybe the message isn't quite getting through to the next generation of young women strongly enough that they can be business leaders. And it's not just about fighting for the deal and being the loudest voice in the room. It's about skill, it's about knowledge, and it is about essentially the ability to make that bottom line profitable and run a business. And I think gender equality gives us not just diversity and perspective, but it leads to better questions, better decisions, and a more innovative, equitable future for all of us. And I think we can all play a role in being part of keeping gender a priority and empower women around us, empower female voices, support professional development. And I think for me personally, I said this to you at the start, I want to see more women in the tech space as well. It can be daunting, I think, running your own business. And I said it to you at the start as well about I think there's always almost like an added element of pressure, especially if you want to start your own family. And I think I look up to so many female entrepreneurs that have the ability to do both. So yeah, I think the ability to be able to ensure as female founders, and just, even like my co-founders they empower me, they support me 100%. And I think that we all need to be doing more of that, because actually we've seen, haven't we? We've seen that there's a lot of data now that actually backs up the fact that, female founded businesses do, and compared to how many get funded, do remarkably well. And I think I think there was a VC that did some report. I listened to this on a podcast the other day about their 10 top companies. 3 of them had female co-founders, which was really vastly disproportionate compared to how many women they actually invested in. So there is beginning to be more of an awareness that this is an opportunity, but also data to show that it's something that investors should be putting their money behind. I do think there's still a long way to go, but I do honestly think that there's so much more now in terms of female support groups, female networking clubs, more female VC money. And, I spend a lot of time engrossed in these podcasts and being part of this conversation and being part of these networks, because I think it's fundamentally important. But I do feel really positive about it. I feel like we've had a massive shift and we're starting to see much more, many more females in this space. And I'm looking forward to being part of that and advocating for more of that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think sometimes we forget how far we've come in a short space of time. So I'm like militantly grumpy about the fact that it's not equal, because that's just nature. However, my gran wouldn't have been able to get a bank account without my granddad signing it off. So we've come a long, long way in not a lot of time. And obviously I'm talking about in the UK here. There's obviously lots of countries around the world where that equality is very, very vastly different. But as a female in the UK, I can start a business. I can open a business bank account. I can open my own bank account. I can hold wealth. I can spread that wealth. I can share that wealth in different ways. But at the minute, obviously, generational wealth normally sits right now in our society with men, just because of the history of where we've been as a country. And over time, that will shift. We just need to get a bit of a move on, don't we? So that we catch up with all the amazing things that women are doing.
I think it's really been nice for me, because I have been, surrounding myself with people like yourself, and also listening day in, day out to female founders and entrepreneurs that have been on this journey. And I found so much comfort in that. I really have. And like I said, I've got my circle. Like, I've not got anyone in my circle that doesn't support me and also challenge me, because let's face it, we need to be challenged and we need to be asked those uncomfortable questions. And I've got very comfortable with being uncomfortable over the last few months, like ridiculously comfortable. I almost like throw myself into situations where I'm like,
oh, going to be so much therapy about that at some point.
But yeah, I just think let's encourage this conversation, support it. I'm seeing much more of it. I think let's now ride this wave. And now, what, as females, how can we support and rise others? Because that's my mantra. It's always been, we rise by lifting others. That's what I live by. That's what I do every day. And, I do want to play a role in this. And I want to see, like I said, this time next year, more women in this boot camp. And I want to be part of that process and try and hopefully inspire and, answer those questions that aren't always straightforward, and draw back the curtains, hopefully a little bit, and, help people a little bit more in this journey.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think as women founders working in a startup space, we're so conscious of what it feels like to be the only woman in a room. I'm sure any women watching or listening to that, immediately as I've said that, you've thought of the last time you were the only female in a space, or one of very few. But if you're a man watching this, that's also a call to action to kind of think, oh, there is only one woman in this room. How could I help, as somebody whose voice might have a little bit more sway in those spaces, to make sure that the next time you go to that event, or the next time you read that article, or the next time you see something where women or non-binary people are underrepresented, that you can be an ally and say, hold on a minute, I'd like there to be a bit more of a mix in this room if we can, because that also will go so far to helping us do better in that space.
Absolutely, without doubt.
Right, I'm going to wrap us up. But before we do the where can we find you, all that stuff, is there anything that you think, Jackie, I wish you'd asked me that and you didn't give me the chance?
I suppose if you know any amazing storytellers and creators out there, it would be really nice for you to just check out what it is that we're trying to do with Exordi, because it isn't just about matching brands to creators. This is about how can we as a collective, as a community, give a voice to purpose-driven companies and individuals that are doing good for our planet. And, we kind of tackle that with a two-pronged approach. We allow brands and agencies to tap into content creators wherever they are in the world to omit that unnecessary travel. But we also try and collectively get behind messages as a community that we support and endorse. And I think, if anybody knows of any creators who might be interested in being part of this journey and being part of this community, it'd be lovely. And also with Ocean Culture Life, I'm going to plug Ocean Culture Life because it's just an amazing community of incredible individuals and organizations that work tirelessly day in, day out to give a voice to the ocean. So I'd love for people to, go over there and support, just show their support for those that, don't always make money from this and do it because they love it in terms of storytelling. And I think the more people that can support and endorse these messages, or even just, enjoy these stories that people are creating, the better. So little plug there. Why not?
I love it. Why not? If you can't plug when you're on live, when can you? So if we want to find out more about you, people are best to give you a follow on LinkedIn. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I've got to get more active on LinkedIn, haven't I? Let's face it. I'm not very good at, it's funny, I'm very good at helping clients and creators do their
way.
But LinkedIn for me, I'm going to start doing, way more of this and being completely open and honest about this journey, and brutally honest sometimes, I think. So LinkedIn, and also we're launching our website, our Exordi website this weekend. So look out for that too. And also just encouraging people to drop me a message, because I think I had amazing opportunities for people that gave me the time when I was early on in my career. Yes, I did a lot of door knocking and pestering, but I'm a massive advocate for believing that I will always give people my time personally where and when I can. So I think please do just reach out with any questions.
Right. So your if you've been watching this, your plan of action is to go and follow Tamsin so that you can find out about everything that's going on. Put a note in your diary that Exordi's website, exordi.io, is going live tomorrow. It's on the screen right now, so you can check that out and get involved, and give a shout out to any creators who you think might be a good fit for Exordi. If you're a business that's thinking, this is the thing I've been waiting for, get in touch with Tamsin, make sure that she knows about you, so that we can get this moving. We've got a couple of people that are in the comments just saying thank you so much, been a really great conversation. Awesome to see Tamsin smashing it. Yeah, she is. I love it. So I just want to say personally, thank you for giving up your time. I know you're a very busy lady, but it's been such a fun conversation. And I'm going to do my little plug now, because why not? So if you want to find out more about Inkblock Creative, which is a business I run, you're a growing business, you're looking for support with your marketing, with your brand, with your content, please get in touch with us at inkblockcreative.co.uk. And if you are a founder, if you're running a business, if you're leading a business, if you're thinking, I need a community, where can I go where I can get support for my marketing and sales? Check out greenhouse.je. We run clinics every single month. We've got a Facebook group where everybody's in there helping each other. We run networking. We have a big event happening in October here on the beautiful island of Jersey, and we would love to have you with us. Just check it out at greenhouse.je. Tamsin, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and I'll definitely be there in October.
Yeah. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.